Hello, ma'am. I am Dr. Snips. What seems to be the problem today? Well, aside from these giant painful lumpies all over my body, I am running a fever, I have the chills, I am fatigued, I have a headache, and the nurse said I had a low blood pressure and a high heart rate, and I feel like I'm literally about to die. Have you traveled out of the country recently? And have you experienced any bites, perhaps on your lower extremities? Yes, well, I was dared to go to Africa and sleep in a tent in the middle of nowhere for $50. So of course I did it. And I also have bites all over my legs. I just got home yesterday and the trip was 5 days. Well, ma'am, you're not experiencing any severe coughing or bloody sputum, correct, when you cough? Well, no, why, doctor? Well, according to your characteristic symptoms, ma'am, as well as the presence of bubos, or swollen inflamed lymph nodes, it appears you may have the bubonic plague. And lucky for you, we have caught it early enough so that it has not developed into the pneumonic plague. I just need to collect a liquid sample from your lymph node to send to the lab to confirm the presence of the bacteria. It will just take a little snip. They don't call me Dr. Snips for nothing. Ouch! Oh my God, the bubonic plague? How did this happen? Well, ma'am, it appears to me that when you were camping in a tent in the middle of Africa in the middle of a night, a flea that was infected with Yersinia pestis could have came there and bit you on your lower extremities. The plague is a zoonotic disease that is carried by small mammals and further transported by fleas. If a flea that has the Yersinia pestis bacteria bites you and exposes the dermis, the rod-shaped Yersinia pestis bacteria can enter into the dermis of the skin. From there, they can enter into lymphatic vessels and travel throughout the lymphatic system until they get to the lymph nodes. From there, they'll accumulate in great numbers, which causes the bubos to form, the large swelling, painful lymph nodes. From there, the Yersinia pestis can either enter into more lymphatic vessels and travel to other lymph nodes all throughout the body, including the inguinal lymph nodes and the cervical lymph nodes, which are where your bubos are placed on your body, or they have another fate. Instead of going into more lymphatic vessels, the Yersinia pestis could enter the blood vessels, which would be a really bad thing because from the blood vessels, they could get to the lungs, which causes pneumonic plague. Furthermore, the Yersinia pestis could encounter cells of the immune system, which there's a lot more going on in the immune system. Since that is really not my specialty, I will have you talk to my immunologist to tell you what's going on in the immune system.
I see that you may have the bubonic plague. I'm your immunologist, and I'm here to inform you about what could be happening in your immune system. The bubonic plague is caused by Yersinia pestis. This is a gram-negative rod-shaped bacteria, meaning it has a cell membrane, cell wall, outer membrane, and lipopolysaccharide. Here it is right here. As this pathogen enters the body, usually chemokines would attract cells of the immune system to phagocytose it. However, Yersinia pestis has a few tricks up its sleeve. This bacterium has virulence factors that code for adhesins, capsules, and antiphagocytic proteins. The capsules of many pathogenic bacteria are made of chemicals normally found in the human body, so they do not stimulate an immune response. In addition, capsules are slippery. When macrophages attempt to phagocytose Yersinia pestis, it can be like grabbing a bar of soap in the shower. To make things worse, the adhesins make it possible for Yersinia pestis to attach to target cells and inject antiphagocytic proteins into dendritic cells, neutrophils, or macrophages, which impairs the ability of the cell to phagocytose the bacteria. This likely impairs receptors such as MARCO. If Yersinia pestis dies naturally, or are engulfed by macrophages, endotoxin is released, which causes fever, inflammation, and blood clotting. So if a macrophage is successful in engulfing Yersinia pestis, this can mean bad news for your body. Our immune systems have a very hard time dealing with this pathogen, so if you have the bubonic plague, you will need treatment immediately.
Oh my God, that is so scary. What are we gonna do, doctor? Well, we don't know anything for certain right now, ma'am. We have to wait for the results of the lab to see if the bacteria is actually present in your lymph node fluid. While you wait, though, we have a television here for you to watch. Oh my gosh, what a coincidence. The history of the bubonic plague is on the History Channel.
It's
the 6th century CE, and two traders are meeting up in Central Africa.
Here are the spices to put on the ship, sir. Thank you, sir. Here's your payment. Hey, if you don't mind me asking, what are those red dots on you? And why are your fingers black? I'm not sure, sir. I really haven't been feeling too well. Say, do you notice all those rats running aboard the ship? Oh, some rats always seem to accompany us on the trip to the Mediterranean. Ouch! I've been bit by something. Well, good day, sir. We'll see you again in 2 months' time.
The trader boards the ship along with the rats. Little does he know, these rats are carrying the bubonic plague. He arrives in Constantinople a few days later, ready to sell the spices to a local merchant.
Good day, sir. I have the spices from Africa for you. Thank you, sir. Say, what are all those red dots? I'm not sure, sir. I was bit by something on the ship. Okay, here's your payment. Perhaps you should see a doctor.
The trader opts not to see a doctor and continues about his business. A few days later, the merchant is at his stand when one of the men making a purchase notices something strange.
Sir, your fingers. They're black. I don't want those hands on my spices. I'll find another merchant to go to.
The merchant passes just a few days later, but suddenly people all around Constantinople are presenting with red dots that turn into black spots. One man seeks the advice of a doctor when the dots appear.
I've got these red dots on my body, Doc. What am I gonna do? Oh no, sir. I've got bad news. What is it? What is it, Doc? You've come down with the Justinian plague. We can't treat it. It's killing 5,000 people a day in Constantinople. There must be something that you can do. I'm sorry, sir. You need to go home and get some rest. Please don't come out.
The plague ended up killing 1/3 of the city of Constantinople, and it eventually led to the fall of Emperor Justinian. However, while this may have been the first record of the plague, it certainly wasn't the last. Let's fast forward to the 14th century and take a look at some spice traders in Asia.
Here are the spices to put on the ship, sir. Thank you, sir. Here's your payment. Hey, if you don't mind me asking, what are those red dots on you? And why are your fingers black? I'm not sure, sir. I really haven't been feeling well. Say, do you notice all those rats running aboard the ship? Oh, some rats always seem to accompany us on the trip to Europe. Ouch! I think I've just been bit by something. Ugh. Well, good day, sir. We'll be seeing you again in 2 months' time.
Oh boy, these traders never seem to learn, do they? The plague proceeded to spread around Europe, killing about 1/3 of Europe's population. Let's see what happens when this trader eventually goes to the doctor.
Before I see you, sir, I must put on my mask.
Doctors wore long black masks that resembled some kind of bird. They were filled with herbs and spices. Hey, at least that makes the cloth face coverings for coronavirus seem not quite so bad anymore.
Oh no, Doc. I know what this mask means. I'm sorry, sir. The Black Death is upon you. We're gonna have to board you and your family up in your homes. No, please, Doc. I have a young son. I'm sorry, sir. I must do my part to keep everyone safe.
In 1890, the plague struck one final time worldwide, spread once again by trade routes. However, due to increased sanitation, the death toll was considerably lower. Let's take a look at our good friend Alexandra Yersin, who kept busy during this final outbreak.
Aha! I have found it. The etiologic agent that causes the plague. My increased knowledge of this illness will save people for generations to come.
Well, ma'am, I hope you found that television production very informative. However, we just got news from the lab that the Yersinia pestis is present in your lymph node fluid, meaning that you do have the bubonic plague. However, I believe that we have found it quick enough that it has not developed into the pneumonic plague. Thankfully for you, the bubonic plague has a 50% fatality rate if not treated, but a 5% mortality rate if treated. The pneumonic plague, otherwise, if you did have that, would be a 100% fatality rate if it was not treated. I'll send you over to the pharmacist right away to get on a treatment plan.
Thanks, Dr. Snips. I'm your friendly pharmacist, and I'll take it from here. I'm going to go over your treatment plan and how to prevent another infection in the future. So first, I want to go over your buboes, which were near your lymph nodes and near your legs. And the good part about this is that since they were not black, it does not indicate there's a co-infection with gangrene. So the 4 antibiotics that we're going to look at include streptomycin, gentamicin, ciprofloxacin, and doxycycline. Streptomycin and gentamicin are both given by IV, and I would prescribe you about 2 grams of this per day. And then the ciprofloxacin and doxycycline are given by tablet, and I'd give you about 400 milligrams every 8 to 12 hours of the ciprofloxacin or 100 milligrams of the doxycycline twice a day. Ultimately, I'm going to prescribe you 2 grams of streptomycin a day given through an IV because it's the most effective in humans. So moving forward, I bet you're wondering, how is this going to get rid of my condition? How is this streptomycin going to get rid of the bubonic plague? So specifically, streptomycin attacks the 16R RNA ribosome. And so by doing this, it attacks the ribosome, changes its shape, which causes translational problems, and the protein will not be encoded for, and therefore it won't be effective in the human body. So if you look at this figure right here, streptomycin comes in about right here on the position of the ribosome, and it's going to change its shape on the rRNA, and then later on the mRNA will not be able to be read correctly because there were those translational problems, and then that protein will not be encoded for and therefore will not have an effect on the human body. So that's how it works. So moving forward, I'm going to go over some preventative measures for you. So the first thing I'm going to recommend is that you look on the CDC website for any current outbreaks of the bubonic plague that are happening. I heard that you went to Africa, and if you look at this map, you can find there are currently 4 different outbreaks that are occurring in Africa, mainly with this one in Madagascar. So I'm guessing that you got it from spending the night in a tent because I gave a lot of leeway for rodents to come in and bite you. So next time, make sure that you're looking at this map and making sure there are no current outbreaks near you. Moving forward, more into the ecology of it, the way that they would get into your home if there was an outbreak near your house is that the fleas would bite the rodents, give it to your dogs, and give it to you, or it would go right to you. So the best way to prevent this is make sure there's no holes in your house because they won't have a means of transportation into getting in your house. And even if you think that this will not lead to your house, those rodents always find a way to get into your house, even if it means that days of them making little burrows. Also, make sure there are no leaves in your yard because this will mean that they can make homes outside. They can make little homes in these leaves. So if you make sure there's no leaves, then there's no place for them to make a home and they will go elsewhere. So there you have it. I gave you a treatment plan and ways to prevent it. Good luck with everything, and I wish you the best.
Thank you so much, doctor. After my treatment plan, I feel much better and my bubbles have gone away. Thank you for everything that you did for me today. You are so welcome. And I hope this teaches everyone a lesson that not everything is worth $50. On a more serious note, although our patient is done with the fight against the plague, the world is still trying to find the perfect vaccination against both the bubonic and pneumonic plague. 2 of the vaccines that researchers are looking at are subunit vaccines and DNA vaccines. Subunit vaccines include the F1 capsular antigen and the low calcium response protein V antigen. F1 capsular protein antigen used alone as a vaccine did not seem to work, however, because the bubonic plague seems to have different strains where some of them are F1 negative, meaning that this sort of vaccine would not work. Low calcium response protein V, however, was shown to be a protective antigen against both bubonic and pneumonic plague. When combined with F1, this worked on all animals except for monkeys, which is the step right before they test on humans. Currently, researchers are working on different adjuvants to add to the subunit vaccine, such as aluminum or cholera toxin to stimulate a strong and long-lasting immunity. Another vaccine is DNA vaccine, where the recombinant DNA sequences of F1 and LCRV are used, and this has shown promise because a DNA vaccine of LCRV initiated a CD8+ response in mice.